In September 2025, the SEC quietly approved automatic voting for retail investors through a no-action letter. The SEC's Division of Corporate Finance told ExxonMobil that its staff would not recommend enforcement if the company launched a program allowing retail shareholders to cast standing voting instructions. It may sound technical, but this decision could reshape how millions of individual investors take part in corporate governance across the United States. Here's what this means. A no-action letter is not formal rulemaking or an official exemption. It's a statement from SEC staff that they won't recommend enforcement if a company proceeds with a specific plan under specific conditions. In ExxonMobil's case, the company sought assurances that its proposed retail voting program wouldn't violate the Exchange Act rules, which regulate proxy voting authority. The SEC staff reviewed their plan and confirmed that based on the representations, it wouldn't recommend enforcement if the program moved forward as described. Here's how the program works. Every retail investor who owns ExxonMobil shares, whether directly or through a bank, broker, or plan administrator, can opt into the program at no cost. The program is not available to registered investment advisors who vote client securities, but participants can set a standing instruction for their shares to vote automatically in line with the board's recommendations. They will still receive all proxy materials for every meeting and can override or change their instruction at any time, also at no cost. And once a year, during the off-season between proxy solicitations, ExxonMobil must remind participants that they're enrolled, describe their voting choice, and make clear that they can cancel or change it. Here's why ExxonMobil pursued this approach. Like many public companies, ExxonMobil faces chronically low voter turnout among individual retail investors. According to its submission, nearly 40% of its outstanding shares are held by retail shareholders. Yet only about 1/4 of those shares, roughly 10% of the total, were voted at the most recent annual meeting. So the company told the SEC that it has repeatedly heard from retail investors who would prefer to support the board's recommendations automatically rather than navigating proxy materials and online voting portals each year. Historically, about 90% of retail votes cast at ExxonMobil's meetings have supported management recommendations. So the SEC's approval came with several key conditions designed to protect shareholder discretion. First, the program must be available to all retail investors on equal terms. Second, it must exclude investment advisors with discretionary voting authority. Third, ExxonMobil must send annual reminders about enrollment and opt-out rights. Fourth, investors must retain the ability to override standing instructions on any proposal at any time. And finally, 5, the company must fully disclose the program on its website and in its proxy statements. These safeguards essentially reassured the SEC staff that the program preserved the necessary shareholder control and transparency rights that are essential to proxy regulation. It's important to note that this no-action letter doesn't change federal law, but it does signal that the SEC is open to similar programs if they meet comparable standards. So for companies with large retail shareholder bases, this could be a new tool to raise participation and reach quorum more easily. Analysts predict that other issuers could adopt similar programs as early as the 2026 proxy season. However, the opportunity does come with some potential challenges. Implementing such a program requires coordination with brokers and intermediaries and vote processing agents, and companies need to invest in the technology, the administrative support, and ongoing communication platforms to make sure that this happens as described and as intended. Companies incorporated in Delaware face additional design considerations. In terms of governance and legal considerations, companies incorporated in Delaware face additional design considerations. So under Section 212B of the Delaware General Corporate Law, a proxy is valid for 3 years unless it specifies a longer duration. Any standing voting instruction must therefore state that it remains effective until the shareholder opts out. And under Delaware common law, a proxy can be revoked either by submitting a later dated proxy or by voting directly at a meeting. So to avoid confusion, companies need to clarify that a one-time override of a specific proposal doesn't revoke the standing instruction for future meetings. These details matter because they ensure legal validity and avoid disputes in the future over whether votes are properly authorized. So the reactions to this no action letter and the ExxonMobil program have been mixed. Supporters view it as a practical innovation that helps retail shareholders participate more easily and aligns outcomes with their likely preferences. Critics, including some ESG-focused funds, have argued that it could entrench management by encouraging investors to essentially set it and forget it. And proxy advisory firms and institutional investors have not necessarily taken public positions yet, but their reactions will heavily influence whether these programs spread across the market or not. So here's some practical steps for issuers that are exploring this approach. For issuers exploring this approach, counsel and governance teams should start with 4 steps. Analyze the shareholder base and understand the scale of retail ownership and past voting patterns. Design clear mechanics. Coordinate with intermediaries to handle enrollment, opt-outs, and overrides. Draft carefully. Specify proxy duration, revocation rules, and disclosure obligations, and plan communication. So educate investors, send reminders, maintain transparency through both your website and proxy disclosures. And I think if you follow these steps from guidance from seasoned practitioners who have analyzed ExxonMobil's program since the SEC's letter was issued, you'll be in a good position for success. The big conclusion is that this retail voting program does represent an early test of how technology and policy can kind of work together to modernize shareholder engagement. And so whether this becomes a blueprint or not for other companies or remains kind of a one-off innovation will largely depend on investor response. Do people like this, right? Regulatory comfort and market trust are also going to be factors. So we'll have to pay attention to this next upcoming proxy season to see how ordinary investors react and how this is going to impact how shareholder voting works across the country. For more updates on securities law and governance, subscribe to the channel. My name is Braeden Anderson. I'm a partner at Gesmer. Love to hear from you.